Hello, and welcome to Good News Rhode Island, the show about Rhode Island and the people and places and events that make Rhode Island a great place to live, that build our communities. And nothing does that more, in a way, than theater. Theater is always making comment on the society. Theater is always drawing in the society so that society can look at itself through stories. And so today we're going to welcome Mixed Magic Theater, which has become a real force for good in the community of Pawtucket, but certainly beyond that in all of Rhode Island. And Ricardo Pitts-Wiley is here. He's the co-founder, but also an actor, playwright, songwriter, and motivational speaker. Welcome, Ricardo, and congratulations for what you've done.
Thank
and
you.
Jeannie-Mae Carson is here, who is an actress and a singer. I didn't know you sang, so please sing something. She's here to read some poetry from the most recent show of women poets, black women poets. And Rudy Rudacious is here as an actor and a hip-hop artist and a poet who is going to be Frankenstein in the next production. So we're going to all talk about the past and the future of Mixed Magic Theater. You've just moved.
Right.
And you're in new space that shows a large piece of glass in the front, so people know to come in. There's parking, and maybe you want to start off with that address.
Well, Mixed Magic Theater is now at 560 Mineral Spring Avenue in Pawtucket. We're right across from the Save-A-Lot, right near the Lorraine Mills fabric store. So those are two, you know, in Rhode Island, it's not, it's all about landmarks. And so we're in a high visibility location with good parking, and we're very happy to be there.
Okay, and you have shows almost every weekend, sometimes during the week.
Yeah.
And so you want the old audience to come, but also you're building new audiences.
We are.
Absolutely.
All right, Ricardo, you're here as the founder with Bernadette, who's not here.
My wife.
The founder of Mixed Magic Theater. I have to say, it takes a whole heck of a lot of passion and vision and insight to start a theater group. And I don't know how long you've been going, but maybe you should say that.
Well,
too.
together, Bernadette and I have been involved in the theater for 40 years. And 5 years ago, our son, Jonathan, became the artistic director of the company. He's been around the theater and in the theater all of his life. It is a lot of work, and it does take a lot of passion. But sometimes you make the decisions to do certain things because the alternative is so much worse. You know, you have to do theater because it's important. Because when you don't have theater, when you don't have the arts in a community, the entire community is diminished in some way. And it's hard to move into the future if you don't have some type of arts background. Mm-hmm.
So you are in Pawtucket, and you do what kinds of theater?
Well, our motto, our creed is to build more literate and arts active communities by putting the diversity of ideas and images on stage. So,
wow, that's a huge end goal.
Well, it is.
We'll all be better if you can do that.
Well, you know, it's not as difficult as one might think it is. I think sometimes people make the problem bigger than it is. first think diverse. That's one of the problems with culture and arts in particular, that very often we try to make up after the fact. Well, at Mixed Magic Theater, we say we first start with the idea of who can be in the show, how diverse can we be, how, is there a balance of ethnicities, of cultures, of men and women, of genders, all of those things, generations. So we look at the work that we do and say, what can we do to include more people? And I think we have been very successful at doing that.
And you were telling me that after the shows, people stay around to talk because they're so engaged with what you've just done that they want to talk about it. They don't even want to go outside in the parking lot. They want to stay right there.
People, especially the original work that we do, people want to talk. And in the matter of the race dialogue in America, the theater is in a unique position, probably in a better position than any other agency in the culture to motivate and create opportunity for dialogue. People want to talk, but you want to create an environment where you can have civil and passionate discussion. And I think all the work that we're doing at Mixed Magic Theater is about creating civil and passionate discussion.
It seems more relevant this last year than ever.
Yeah.
And we're realizing, even with the movie Selma, how far we haven't come as we look at race relations. Somehow, the fact that you're right there on the street and accessible must make your audience is more diverse as well.
Well, we've always had a very diverse audience, but the audience also looks like Rhode Island. So our biggest issue right now, and I think it's an issue for all arts organizations, is we have to get a younger audience in. We have to start engaging a younger audience, and I don't think the arts in general have done a very good job of that, because in order to survive, we have kept going back to the greatest generation audience, which has been a great generation audience for all of the arts, but we're having to engage a younger audience now, and we're having to reinvent ourselves in some way, and we should do that to engage a younger audience. So the work that we're doing, it doesn't mean that everything is brand new, that we're just only going to focus on the latest fad. We're saying you take classic literature, you take great poetry, you take traditional ideas sometimes, and you say, how do we make them accessible? And not assume that audiences are not interested in the work.
Giving out free tickets, I don't know.
Well, see, free tickets is not necessarily the answer, because a free ticket means that you're not sustainable. You have to find a way to get people invested in the arts in a way in which they make it a part of their life. At Mixed Magic Theater, we don't separate food, water, clothing, shelter, arts. We just don't separate those things. You can clothe, feed, house, shelter, whatever, a community, all you want. But if you don't feed their minds and their spirits with equal vigor, the net result will be zero.
And maybe it's what we're seeing now in other cities.
If I may just piggyback a little bit off of,
please.
Because I came into Mixed Magic when I was 17 years old. From high school, and something that Mixed Magic Theater has always done is allow you to see yourself in the work. And I think that's something that when I was in high school and they'd be drowning us with Romeo and Juliet, they wouldn't let us see ourselves in the work. It's just learn this work. It's from this time. You have to learn it, or else you're gonna fail. But it didn't bring me into it at all in any way, shape, or form. Let you interpret
it, maybe.
Yeah, no, I didn't see myself in it. It was this old story, and I'm a 17-year-old kid in Providence, Rhode Island. I had no interest in it. But what Mixed Magic always did with shows like Frankenstein, with shows like the Moby Dick Project, always brought in a current story. You know what I mean, and an adaptation. So that newer audiences can see themselves in this old work and understand that these are stories that you understand whether you understand it or not.
If it's not relevant to you, they're not gonna. You have to see yourself. It has to be relevant for the younger.
You got to relate.
Audiences.
They got to relate somehow.
So you have a group of friends. Do they all come when you're doing a show, or do you get other kids to come? Not that you're a kid now, but you get other young students come.
I mean, I work hard to try to get them to show up. Sometimes, some kids are just, they're just caught up in what they think about when they hear theater. It's just, old.
It's a dusty
old
word.
English. Yeah. They have certain assumptions, but you work hard to try to get them to come and understand. No. This is your story too, and this is this show. But that doesn't mean that there can't be another show that is directly from your experience.
Right.
And that doesn't mean that you can't write a show that could one day be on the stage directly from your experience. I mean, at this point, I think there's like a hip hop musical now.
Yes.
I think In the Heights or something like that, right? About living, being Dominican in Washington Heights, New York.
Right.
I mean, if that's not an example of further, further putting your own story on stage, then I don't know what is, But it's just you just got to keep drowning them with that idea and constantly keep reinforcing it.
How come you came?
Well, I met Ricardo through an English teacher, actually. English teacher by the name of Trish Botkin. She was my 11th grade English teacher. And I did a research paper in her class. And I asked her if it was okay if I could write about the topic of snitching, because it was a popular topic in hip-hop. I'm a hip-hop baby, to the day that I die. I did the paper, and she allowed me. She said, Rudy, you can write about whatever you want. You just have to put it in words that I can understand. And I felt so empowered by that. And it was the first time in a long time that I've, found schoolwork fun and research fun for the first time, because I saw myself in the work. And I did it and got a great grade on it. And me and her became really, really cool after that. And she was actually the one that called Ricardo and was like, hey, I've got this student, he's got some fire in him. Maybe you could do some work with him.
And you knew what to do.
Well, of course I did, and because somebody did it for me when I was in high school. And so it was my opportunity to pay back. A lot of the people, you don't have to pay back the person you borrowed from in the world of the arts, but you got to pay somebody back. Yeah. And this was an opportunity. And when I met Jeannie Carson, it was very much the same thing. She was a URI graduate from the theater department, and
wide-eyed,
and looking for opportunities to perform. And one of the things that Bernadette and I decided early on in our life in the theater, we were not going to wait by the phone for somebody to call us. We were going to call ourselves, and so that it became, if it's not out there, then create it. Don't wait for it, create it, and don't wait your turn. Take your turn. So when Bernadette, my wife, put together Poet Women, with this idea, this incredible idea that Black and Latino poets had something in common. There was a common language that could express their experiences. It was, I can't say it was easy, but it was something that we knew how to do. And so some of the work, example of some of the work from Poet Women.
Jeannie-Mae, do you want to read a poem to us and tell us a little bit about the background?
Certainly. I have a couple. This one is called Sisters by Lucille Clifton. And it's a story, it could be any group of women that have grown up together, they're close, they know each other. Black and Latino women, we go through the same experiences, we just don't necessarily share the same language, but in this poetry, we can come together with that language.
And Lucille Clifton was a poet laureate of the country for a while. Yes.
Most of all of the poets had some degree of celebration and accolades.
Yes.
Poet laureate women, and they were all activists in their own right as well.
Yeah.
And very vocal about
Very vocal.
Okay. All right, well, please read.
Sisters. Me and you be sisters. We be the same, me and you, coming from the same place. Me and you be greasing our legs, touching up our edges. Me and you be scared of rats, be stepping on roaches. Me and you come running high down Purdy Street one time, and Mama laugh and shake her head at me and you. Me and you got babies, got 35, got black. Let our hair go back. Be loving ourselves. Be loving ourselves. Be sisters. Only where you sing, I poet. So it's
the bonding that happens.
It is. Bonding happens with all women at some point, and you have to find that connection. And with the group of women that we were working with, as Ricardo said, different ages, different backgrounds, Latino women, black women, there were women from their 30s into their 70s, and we were all sharing these stories, and they're the same stories, it just happened at different times.
I was there. It was really powerful. You have one more poem, a kidnap poem by Nikki Giovanni.
Yes.
Nikki also is very well known.
She's probably one of the most well-known black female poets. There are so many. It's tough making choices. Okay, Kidnap poem by Nikki Giovanni. Ever been kidnapped by a poet? If I were a poet, I'd kidnap you. Put you in my phrases and meter you to Jones Beach, or maybe Coney Island, or maybe just to my house. Lyric you in lilacs, dash you in the rain, blend into the beach to complement my sea. Play the lyre for you, ode you with my love song, anything to win you. Wrap you in the red, black, green, show you off to mama. Yeah, if I were a poet, I'd kidnap you.
So one of the things about the selections that Bernadette made and put in the group together was, one of the things and I applaud her so much for it. Not only did she want to engage women in the poetry, she wanted to make sure that men were engaged too. And that it wasn't limited to black and Latino women. And certainly our audience reflected a diversity that said, you know, we just want to talk about these issues. So when we approach something like Frankenstein, in which Rudy is playing Victor Frankenstein, the antagonist, protagonist of the story. It depends on which way you look at it.
He looks pretty normal sitting
here.
Victor was a weird guy.
Yeah, Victor, but a driven person, and also, you know, Victor was in our production of Moby Dick, as was Jeannie, in which what did I say? Rudy was in our.
Hey, that just says how good I am.
There you go.
Victor, you know what I'm saying? That's all that says.
Rudy was in our production of Moby Dick. He was one of the young people. In fact, that was maybe his second show at Mixed Magic Theater, and the young people that he helped bring into the show, you know, made contributions to the show. They weren't just in the show; they made a contribution to the show.
Definitely.
But it was, how do you respect Melville? And one of the things I think Rudy was attest to is, it was important to honor Melville as much as it was to honor the contemporary story that was being told. And I think there's not a kid who was involved in that show that doesn't have Moby Dick as a part of their life now and forever. And we're trying to do the same thing with Frankenstein. Tell Mary Shelley's story, but tell it in a way that says, there's a message from 1818 in this story for you in 2065. And in just the way that one of Victor's first monologues in the show sets the stage for what's going to happen.
Okay, do you want to do that, Victor?
Yes, absolutely.
Excuse me, Rudy.
Wow.
Hey, I got it like that, you know. In Monsieur Waldman's laboratory, I became so ardent and eager a student that the stars very often faded into morning while I was still at work. 2 years passed in this manner, but finally, I succeeded. I became capable of bestowing animation upon lifeless matter. I collected bones and limbs from morgues and newly made graves. So basically what's going on is, he came under study by Monsieur Waldman. And Monsieur Waldman was the one who taught him what's considered sad trash or black magic in his time. This idea to bring things back to life. And in that section, he was just essentially talking about like his experience, how he came so just wrapped up in it, and it just, once he finally figured it out.
Science and observation.
Once he finally figured it out, you know, and how to be able to bring things to life, and, you know, yeah.
But in connecting, you know, say, you know what, you might have wanted to get your creator's attention before, but now you're doing things on your own, and you're going to be held accountable for that. But the play is about personal responsibility, medical ethics, about the nature of monster making. Who's making monsters? Who are these monsters? We ask a question: what do we do with the monsters we create, and what do they do with us? That's a very important question. So, but in Reflections, it is really about African American, not just African American men, but black men saying, in order to have a conversation with me, you got to see me first. Not just as what you see on the news, not just the sound bites, not just what's happening in Baltimore or Tulsa, Oklahoma, or New York or Missouri. You got to see me as a whole person who lives a complex life with a complex history, negotiating their way through a complex culture. Before we can have a real conversation, we got to see each other, and that's going back to Frankenstein. The creature was just saying, Victor, see me. See what I am. Do you know what the creature ultimately wanted? The American creed. Life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness.
Which is what we all want.
Which is what we all want.
Very basic.
Very basic things. Just see me. You know, it wanted to be useful. It wanted to be safe. It wanted to be warm. It didn't want to be alone. And if you listen to the poetry in Poet Women, it says the same thing. See me, listen to me, hear me, understand. I'm not just a black woman or a Latina woman. I'm a whole person who lives in a culture that we have to navigate our way through. And you know what? You may find that we have more in common than we have difference. But you know. And also, we can't factor out the economics. In every single phase of this, of all of these works, when we talk about culture, and particularly racism in culture and bigotry and things like that, there's an economic foundation almost always. And we have to deal with it.
Very, very wise words. Rudy, what did you learn about yourself after you started becoming Victor?
Oh, man. I mean, I think my value, I've always somewhat had a value on responsibility, taking responsibility for things, but I think it's even heightened at to a whole nother level. You know, sometimes I reflect on mistakes that I've made in the past and things like that, and it can sometimes mess with you on certain days, thinking like, man, like I probably really hurt this person's feelings, or there's certain people that I don't know, they might have a grudge with me still to this day, but definitely taking into consideration your own actions.
But you've moved into the future. You've moved into the present.
Absolutely.
And you're who you are now.
Absolutely.
And making good decisions for yourself,
for
and
sure.
hopefully
but also
showing other people how to make good decisions.
The theater, mixed magic theater, period, taught me a lot about just being a good man, being a respectable man, and how to carry myself a lot better, because, growing up, I didn't necessarily have that. So, yeah.
So the theater gives a place.
It gives a place.
And
gives a voice.
It expands and gives a voice. Mm-hmm. And it gives a life, doesn't it?
Definitely.
And you have done this. You and Bernadette have done this.
Yes, we have.
I
we're
would
very
say
proud of it.
You should be single-handedly. I just don't know another organization like this, and I applaud you.
We're unique in Rhode Island, but we don't want to be unique in Rhode Island. We need to be part of a consortium of some type, and so when we work, we're trying to say theater for everybody, not just the rich, not just the black, not just the white, not just Hispanics. Theater for everybody.
So if I have a child who lives in Pawtucket or lives in Providence, and I want that child and that child wants to be in theater, how do I get engaged with you?
Do what Rudy did. Theater is a thing where it's a difficult field, and it's a halfway thing. We get young people come to us all the time and say, "What can I do?" And you have to have an answer right then. We get all, not just young people, we get all kinds of people who call up and say, I used to be in plays when I was 15, now I'm 55, and is there still a chance for me? Yes, there is, absolutely. But once a person comes to you, you have to create a way for them to participate.
You, Ricardo, have to. That's the problem.
And they have to be willing to. They have to be willing to discipline themselves, commit themselves, and focus.
Okay.
And have courage.
And have courage.
Okay. You all are very commendable. Thank you so much for being here. We wish the very best to Mixed Magic Theater, and it's hard to say, but thank you for being here, and we just wish you all the very best. And good news is right around the corner, probably in Pawtucket, and probably you're helping to make it. Thank you for watching.